We are following some breaking news at this hour. I did want to share this social media post from the Democrats saying that oversight Dems have received new emails from Jeffrey Epstein's estate that raise serious questions about Donald Trump and his knowledge of Epstein's horrific crimes. Read them for yourself. It's time to end this cover-up and release the files. This is some file footage of the late Jeffrey Epstein, and I did want to share some more information on this breaking news. Jeffrey Epstein writing in a 2011 email that President Trump had, quote, spent hours at Epstein's house with a victim of sex trafficking, and said in a separate message years later that President Trump knew about the girls, in quotation marks. That's according to communications released today. Now, the emails made public by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee add to the questions about President Trump's friendship with Epstein and about any knowledge that he may have had in what prosecutors call a years-long effort by Epstein to exploit underage girls.
Welcome back, everyone. Adam is here. And if you think Trump is still running the show in Washington, what just happened will completely change your mind. Congress just told Donald Trump absolutely not on his latest power grab, and he is losing his mind over it. We're talking about a bipartisan vote to block Trump from forcing a nationwide voter ID mandate through executive order alone.
And perhaps most importantly, I'm asking you to approve the Save America Act to stop illegal aliens and others who are unpermitted persons from voting in our sacred American elections. That cheating is rampant in our elections. It's rampant. It's very simple. All voters must show voter ID.
Yeah, you heard that right. Trump literally wanted to bypass Congress and just declare new voting rules by himself before the 2026 midterms. And when lawmakers said no way, Trump went on Truth Social and absolutely melted down, posting in all caps, attacking members of his own party, and claiming everyone who voted against him is basically helping Democrats cheat in elections.
A federal judge ruled yesterday that President Trump's request to add a documentary proof of citizenship requirement to the federal voter registration form cannot be enforced. U.S. District Judge Colleen Kohler-Cotelli in Washington, D.C. sided with Democratic and civil rights groups that sued the Trump administration over his executive order he issued back in March that included requiring documentary proof of citizenship to register to vote in federal elections and that all ballots be received by Election Day. She ruled that the proof of citizenship directive is an unconstitutional violation of the separation of powers, as the administration has argued that such a mandate is necessary to restore public confidence that only Americans are voting in U.S. elections.
This is not normal. This is a president who thought he could rewrite election laws from his phone, and Congress finally told him to sit down. Let's break down exactly what happened because the details make this even crazier. On February 13th, Trump posted on Truth Social that he was going to issue an executive order shortly to impose nationwide voter ID requirements before the 2026 midterm elections. And in that same post, he admitted that the legislation to do this, the actual legal way to make it happen, was stalled in Congress. So he basically said the quiet part out loud. He admitted Congress wasn't going to pass his voter ID law, so he was going to do it himself anyway. Then he went on this rant about how Democrats refuse to vote for voter ID because they want to continue to cheat in elections. That's his framing. Anyone who opposes his voting rules must be trying to steal elections. Never mind that voter ID laws are controversial because they make it harder for students, elderly people, and low-income folks who don't have easy access to government IDs to vote. To Trump, it's always about cheating. But here's where it gets interesting. Congress didn't just ignore him. They actually voted to block him. And this wasn't some party line thing where Democrats barely squeaked out a win. This was bipartisan. Republicans and Democrats both looked at Trump's plan and said, absolutely not. You can't just rewrite election rules by yourself. And that almost never happens anymore. So the fact that it did tells you how serious this is. Now, why did Congress finally decide to grow a spine? Part of it is timing. This vote happened right after a bunch of other stuff where Trump tried to bypass Congress and got smacked down. Literally days before this, the Senate advanced a bipartisan war powers resolution because Trump launched a military raid in Venezuela without congressional authorization. Senator Jack Reed put out a statement saying Congress needed to reassert its constitutional authority and calling Trump's actions a profound constitutional failure. That's Senate speak for "this is insane and we can't let it keep happening." Then the same week, the Supreme Court ruled against Trump on his tariff powers. Trump had been trying to impose what he called reciprocal tariffs, basically making up new taxes on imports because he didn't like other countries' trade policies. And the court was like, yeah, no, tariffs are taxes and only Congress can levy taxes. That's literally in the Constitution. The ruling was 6-3, and even some of Trump's own appointees voted against him. Legal experts called it Trump touching the limit of his power, which is a polite way of saying he got told to sit down. So Congress is watching all of this: the Venezuela raid, the tariff overreach, Trump announcing policies on Truth Social like he's passing laws from his phone, and they're realizing that if they don't push back now, they're basically irrelevant. Because Trump has spent the last year acting like Congress is just a suggestion. He tried to cap credit card interest rates by posting about it on social media. He tried to change trade policy by tweet. And now he wants to rewrite voting rules the same way. And Congress finally said, okay, this has to stop. But here's the thing. Trump doesn't care, like at all. His response to getting blocked wasn't to back down or negotiate or work with Congress like a normal president. His response was to go on Truth Social and rage post about how everyone who voted against him is a traitor and Democrats are trying to steal elections. And he didn't just complain, he hinted that he's going to issue the executive order anyway. Which brings us to the big question. Can he actually do that? Can Trump just sign an executive order and force nationwide voter ID on the country? The short answer is no. The long answer is probably not, but he's definitely going to try, and it's going to be a mess. Here's why. Elections in the United States are run by states, not the federal government. The Constitution gives states the power to set the times, places, and manner of elections. Congress can regulate federal elections, but the president doesn't have unilateral power to change voting rules. That's not a thing. An executive order can't override state election laws, and it definitely can't create new requirements for who gets to vote. But Trump doesn't care about that. He's been governing by executive order for his entire second term, and his strategy is basically sign it, let someone sue, fight it in court, and maybe by the time it gets resolved, I'll have already gotten what I wanted. We've seen this with tariffs, with immigration, with trade policy. He just does stuff and dares people to stop him. And sometimes it works because the legal process is slow, and by the time a court rules, the damage is already done. So if Trump issues this voter ID executive order, what happens? States sue immediately. Civil rights groups sue. It goes to federal court, probably gets blocked by a judge within days, and then it's tied up in appeals for months. And in the meantime, we're heading into the 2026 midterms with total chaos about who gets to vote and what the rules are. Which honestly might be the point. Because even if Trump loses in court, he gets to spend the entire election season claiming the system is rigged and Democrats are cheating, and the only reason he might lose is because they wouldn't let him fix elections. His base eats that up. Trump's entire political brand at this point is everyone's out to get me, the system is rigged, I'm the only one fighting for you. And every time Congress or the courts block him, it just reinforces that narrative. So even when he loses, he kind of wins because he gets to play the victim and fire up his supporters. But here's what's different this time. And this isn't just about Trump's ego or his political brand. This is about the actual mechanics of democracy. Voting rules determine who gets to participate in elections. And if Trump successfully rewrites those rules right before a midterm where his party might lose, that's not just norm breaking. That's election manipulation. And the fact that Congress is finally pushing back, the fact that even some Republicans are saying no to this, tells you how dangerous they think it is. Now, Trump's response has been to attack those Republicans publicly. He's calling them rhinos. He's threatening to primary them. He's saying they're helping Democrats cheat. And that's going to have consequences because we're about to head into primary season for the 2026 midterms. Any Republican who voted against Trump on this is going to face a Trump-backed challenger who runs on, "I would have let Trump save elections." So even though Congress blocked him this time, Trump is making sure there's a political price to pay. And that's the part that should worry everyone, because the message Trump is sending to his party is, if you don't let me do whatever I want, I will destroy your career. And the more Republicans who get primaried out for standing up to him, the fewer people are going to be willing to do it next time, which means the next time Trump tries something like this, and there will be a next time, Congress might not have the votes to stop him. Let's talk about the bigger pattern here. This isn't just about one vote or one tantrum. This is about Trump systematically trying to grab powers that the Constitution doesn't give him. And we're watching in real time to see if Congress, the courts, or anyone else is actually going to stop him. The answer so far has been maybe, sometimes, it depends. And that's the problem. Because every time Trump gets told no, he just tries again in a different way. We've already seen it with tariffs, with military action, with trade policy. He pushes and pushes until either he gets what he wants or everyone gets so tired of fighting him that they just let it slide. And if that happens with voting rules, if Trump actually manages to rewrite who gets to vote right before an election where his party might lose, that's not just a political fight anymore. That's a full-blown constitutional crisis. Because at that point, you're not just arguing about policy. You're arguing about whether elections mean anything at all. The timing of all this is critical. We're heading into the 2026 midterms, and Trump is panicking. He knows his party could lose the House or the Senate in November, and if that happens, his entire second-term agenda is dead. No more executive orders rubber-stamped by Congress, no more judicial appointments, no more passing whatever laws he wants. So he's trying to lock in advantages now. Stricter voter ID rules, suppression tactics, anything that makes it harder for people who don't support him to vote. And he's framing it all as election integrity and stopping cheating. But really, it's just about keeping power. CNN reported that Trump has been obsessed with the midterms for months, even floating ideas about postponing them or changing the rules. And this voter ID push was supposed to be part of that strategy. Make it harder to vote, claim any Democratic wins are fraud, and set up 2028 by saying the system is rigged. But Congress just threw a wrench in that plan. And Trump is furious because now he has to actually compete in a fair election. So what happens next? Trump's probably going to issue the executive order anyway. He's already hinted at it, and his whole brand is "I do what I want, and dare you to stop me." So expect an executive order in the next few weeks. Expect immediate lawsuits from states and civil rights groups. Expect the whole thing to end up in federal court where it'll probably get blocked. But in the meantime, we're going to have months of chaos about voting rules right as we head into the midterms. And that chaos benefits Trump. Even if he loses in court, he gets to spend the entire campaign season talking about how the system is rigged and Democrats are cheating and the courts are biased. His base believes that stuff, and it fires them up, and it gives him an excuse if Republicans lose. So win or lose legally, Trump gets something out of this fight. But here's what gives me hope. Congress actually pushed back. For the first time in a long time, Republicans and Democrats worked together to tell Trump no on something that really matters. And yeah, Trump's going to punish them for it. And yeah, some of those Republicans are probably going to lose their seats. But they did it anyway. They looked at Trump trying to rewrite election rules and said, "This is too far. We can't let this happen." And that matters because every time Trump tries to grab power and someone stops him, it sets a precedent. It shows that checks and balances still exist, that the Constitution still means something, that not everyone's willing to just roll over and let him do whatever he wants. The more often that happens, the harder it gets for Trump to claim unlimited authority. Now don't get me wrong, this fight is far from over. Trump's going to keep pushing. Congress might cave next time. And we're probably headed for a constitutional crisis before the midterms. But this vote was a line in the sand. And we're about to find out if that line holds or if Trump just smashes right through it. The bottom line is simple. Trump tried to force nationwide voter ID through executive order alone. Congress voted bipartisan to block him. Trump responded with an all-caps meltdown on Truth Social, attacking his own party and threatening primaries. This is part of a pattern where Trump keeps trying to grab powers he doesn't have, and institutions keep pushing back. But every time they push back, Trump figures out new ways to test the limits. And with the midterms approaching, the stakes couldn't be higher. Because if Trump actually succeeds in rewriting voting rules, the democracy we think we have might not exist much longer.